disbeliever and a greatly envious man of the Muslims passed by a group of Muhammad followers of Aus and Khazraj. He perceived a prevalent spirit of reconciliation and an atmosphere of rapport and enmity enveloping the whole group, an unusual scene categorically in conflict with the animosity and hatred that characterized their pre-Islam behavior. He therefore sent a youth of his to sit among them, remind them of Bu'ath, war between them, and recite some of their verses which they used to compose satirizing each other. All of this with the intention of sowing the seeds of discord and disagreement and undermining the new Islamically orientated inter-tribal relations. The youth did in fact succeed, and the two parties at no time recalled the old days, and pre-Islam tribal fanaticism sprang to the front to bring about a state of war. The Prophet was reported of this account, and immediately at the head of some immigrants set out to see the situation. He began to rebuke them, but in the manner of the great instructor and the tolerant spirit of the understanding guide. O Muslims, do you still advance pre-Islamic arguments after I have been sent to you as a messenger? Remember that it is not rightful for you to turn backward after Allah has guided you to the straight path, delivered you from disbelief, and created amity between you. The Muslims readily realized that it was a satanic whim and a plot hatched by the enemies. They directly embraced each other and went back home, quite satisfied and in full obedience to the Messenger of Allah. Such were the practices of the Jews: trouble-making, dissension, sowing, falsehood, fabrication, faking belief in the day, and practicing disbelief at night. In every life they used to tighten the ropes of financial dealings of the Muslims. If they happened to owe a Muslim something, they would shirk their obligations on grounds that he had converted into a new religion, and they would allege the basis of agreement was no longer valid if it was the other way. They would never cease to harass him day and night to pay back the debt, all of which in a desperate attempt to demolish the great edifice of the new religion that was rapidly gaining ground and speedily towering up skyward. The Canaanite Jews breached the covenant, seeing that Allah sided with the believers and granted them a manifest victory, and perceiving the Muslims' awesome presence in Medina, the Jews could no longer contain themselves or conceal indignation. They started a series of provocative and harmful deeds publicly. The most wicked amongst them were the tribe of Banu Qanaqah, who lived in quarters within Medina named after them. As for jobs, they took up goldsmithery, blacksmithing, and crafts of making household instruments. That is why war weaponry was available in large quantities in their houses. They counted 700 warriors and were the most daring amongst the Jewish community in Arabia, and now the first to breach the covenant of cooperation and non-aggression, which they had already countersigned with the Prophet. Their behavior grew too impolite and bearable, they started a process of troublemaking jeer at the Muslims, hurting those who frequented their bazaars and even intimidating their woman. Such things began to aggravate the general situation, so the Prophet gathered them in assemblage, admonished and called them to be rational, sensible, and guided and cautioned against further transgression. Nevertheless, they remained obdurate and paid no heed to his warning and said, "Don't be deluded on account of defeating some Qurayshites inexperienced in the art of war. If you were to engage us in fight, you will realize that we are genuine war experts in this regard. The words of Allah were revealed, saying, Say, O Muhammad, to those who disbelieve, you will be defeated and gathered together to help. Worst indeed is that place to rest. There has already been a sign for you, O Jews, in the two armies that met in combat. The battle of Badr, one was fighting in the cause of Allah, and as for the other, they were disbelievers. They, the believers, saw them. The disbelievers with their own eyes, twice their number, although they were thrice their number, and Allah supports with His victory what He pleases. Verily, this is a lesson for those who understand. The answer of Banu mounted as seen to war declaration. The Prophet suppressed his anger and advised the Muslims to be patient and forbearing and wait for what time might reveal. The Jews went too far in their transgression, presumptuous behavior and licentious practices. One day a Jewish goldsmith provoked a Muslim woman whose genitals become uncovered when he had tied the edge of the garment to her back. A Muslim man happened to be there and killed the man. The Jews retaliated by killing that Muslim. The man's family called the Muslims for help and war started. On Saturday, Shawwal 52 AH, the Prophet marched out with his soldiers, Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib, carrying the standard of the Muslims and laid siege to the Jews. For 15 days, Allah cast fear into their hearts, and they were obliged to defer to the messenger's judgment on their lives, wealth, women, and children. Their hands were tied behind their backs. At this point, Abdullah started his hypocritical role and began to intercede for them persistently on grounds of former alliance between those Jews and his tribe Khazraj. Muhammad dealt with this man as being a Muslim. He had feigned conversion into Islam for only 1 month. 1 month by that time, and so he granted him his request for Islam. Except people at their face value, Banu handed over all materials, wealth, and war equipage to the Prophet, who set aside 1/5 and distributed the rest to his men. After that, they were banished out of all Arabia to Azrua in Syria, where they stayed for a while and soon perished away.